Hey everyone, my name is WyrmsEye and welcome back to another episode of the Battle Spot Factory, our VGC Battle Spot series. So, after a week's hiatus last week, which I'm terribly sorry about, we're going to be jumping right back onto the ladder with the team that we were featuring a fortnight ago. Obviously, this Birmingham Regional's adapted team with the Metagross, Torkoal, Mimikyu, Hariyama core, as well as the Snorlax and Tapu Koko, which helps to try and round it out. So, obviously, for those of you that may have already seen, Lee Provost, Osiris VGC, used this QR code on his QR code series. He didn't have as good a time as I was hoping for, but obviously the team does have a lot of pretty defined weaknesses, and as he said, there's an issue with complacency, shutting out games that still needs to be looked into. I have got some thoughts from him, so hopefully we can look at implementing them at a later date. But until then, we're going to be using the team as is, as has been seen in the last few episodes, and we're going to be continuing on for the remainder of this week. Hopefully, at least a couple of videos, if not 3. In addition to that, the North American International Championships is taking place this weekend from Friday through to the Sunday. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of very talented players in the hunt for chasing day 2 invites, as well as some trying to close out their day 1 invites. It looks to be a very interesting championship indeed, and it'll be really interesting to see what sort of teams come out of it. So I am going to be keeping a very close eye. There will be streams going for both the VGC and the trading card game as well, so do check into both of those if you have the opportunity to. Obviously, I'll be focusing more on the VGC side of things, trying to keep up with all the information as it comes through. In terms of what teams that we could potentially see, I think it's going to be a lot of the same stuff that we've seen in the past few events. Arcanine and Tapu Koko are probably going to be two of the biggest threats that are going to be in the metagame at the moment, but you can't discount any Trick Room. Tapu Lele is still a big offensive threat, and it'll be interesting to see how many Tapu Fini and Tapu Bulu actually show up. There's been a lot of talk around whether they are as useful as results are showing. Obviously, Tapu Bulu has got a lot of stick in the past, but it has won quite a few major events, so it may continue that trend going on. However, guys, let's jump into the ladder. Unfortunately, I can't really say that I've had the best of luck with this team on this cartridge and on my spare cartridge that I actually had the team properly on. We've had 3 wins and 3 losses over the course of the team's foray into this in this channel, but obviously it's had a bit of a sketchy past on my other cartridge. But enough about that. We have a UK player, Nefamas from Scotland, I believe, with a rating of 1609. A team of Tapu Lele, Alolan Marowak, Milotic, Braviary, Kartana and Porygon 2. So very quickly, we can obviously see that they're running a double sort of competitive strategy with the Milotic and Defiant on the Braviary, as my opponent actually locks in. The Alolan Marowak could be a bit of an issue if we don't deal with it properly, as the Tapu Lele is also going to be somewhat of a problem to deal with. Still, I do think we can do a bit of damage with what we see up here, but whether or not I want to bring Snorlax or not is another matter entirely. I think I need Torkoal here just for the sheer raw damage output. So what I'm going to do is going to Metagross and Mimikyu, Hariyama and Torkoal in the back. I'm going to ignore Snorlax, which is somewhat unusual for me because I do think it makes a big difference for this team, but excuse me, there are still quite a lot of fighting type attacks that this team can bring out. The Braviary almost certainly has superpower. The Kartana will have Sacred Sword. and in general, Snorlax will have a difficult time against the Marowak if it can't deal with it fast and furiously. So we do see the Tapu Lele and the Alola Marowak hit the field up against our Mimikyu and Metagross. So it's probably safe to assume that the Marowak is going to be going for a Flare Blitz into the Metagross, if not the Mimikyu. But can we deal with that suitably? This is a difficult turn because I can't just explode like I would like to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and Meteor Mash the Lele and Trick Room with the Mimikyu. As we see, the Lele actually switch out in favour of the Porygon 2. Should be seeing then a Flare Blitz into the Metagross, but the Marowak actually protects. Very cautious turn by my opponent here, which is quite unusual, as we do get our Trick Room up as well. So, a switch and a protect by my opponent. I'm not sure whether I agree with that play, but it certainly could potentially work out. The Porygon 2 does put a little bit of pressure onto us. It could reverse the Trick Room if it so wished to. I imagine Marowak will go down here. Metagross will go down here to a Flare Blitz. So can I actually switch something in to take the potential Flare Blitz? Could bring in Hariyama. I think it should have enough defensive presence to take the Flare Blitz here, and then the next turn I can obviously threaten with a knockout onto the Porygon 2, or if potentially possible the Marowak, depending upon how this Marowak just chooses to attack. But it looks like it's going to be a double target into the Mimikyu here, as we actually just see a Boomerang from the Marowak into the Hariyama, which it will take very sensibly, as the Mimikyu does get its Shadow Claw off onto the Marowak. Significant chunk of damage, and we do get our Burn Orb up as well. So not necessarily a bad turn there for us. I think what we can do this turn is switch the Mimikyu out into the Torkoal, and we can just knock off the Marowak here. The Porygon 2 is going to be threatened by the potential close combat into it, so we do have to be somewhat wary of that. The Marowak could protect, that's not a problem. It's making sure that we can keep this Torkoal alive as much as possible. Hariyama's knockoff does go into the Marowak. Should see a Flick Club knocked off, but critically the Marowak does go down, as we do see the Flick Club and the Ice Beam going into the Hariyama. Significant chunk of damage, and that might just be enough for the burn to pick up the knockouts. So we know that they've got Mimikyu in the back. We know that they've got Lele in the back, sorry. So the key here is, can we deal with whatever that last Pokemon is in the back? What could it potentially be? I think we bring out Metagross here. Let's see what they decide to bring in. It's actually the Milotic. Okay. And we actually see the Psychic Seed there, raising the special defense, so this Milotic is going to be taking a hefty helping of this eruption, so we are going to have to be very mindful of that. Is it therefore better to Heat Wave in this situation, or to go for the Eruption anyway? I think we Heat Wave here, and let's just have a look at how many turns of Trick Room they got. 2 turns of Trick Room. Will Meteor Mash into the Milotic. I'm kind of thinking that if we can get the Milotic down, the main thing is we want to be able to hit the Tapu Lele later. So it's going to be interesting to see how much this actually does. Not a heck of a lot. We do get the Meteor Mash off before the Milotic attacks, and we do about half, but we see a Coil. I've not seen a Coil Milotic in so long. Attack, defense, and accuracy. Right. So Trick Room is shortly going to end. See, I am locked into Heat Wave and Meteor Mash. It's just basically what targets I want to go down for. With the Milotic's Coil, that makes Milotic a lot more of an issue to deal with. And Milotic actually avoids the Heat Wave, so I'm not going to be doing too much damage to that Milotic at all. But we do get an attack raise, which is nice. Ah, the Hypnosis, that's why it's got Coil. Ah, now that makes a lot more sense now. That makes a lot of sense. And a waste of a Trick Room there, in my opinion, because it was going to return to normal quite quickly anyway. But I'm not too disappointed about that. Obviously, we are going to have to burn our first turn of sleep with the Metagross this turn, as the Milotic just chooses to recover rather than actually go for an attack, which I'm okay with. So Metagross takes its first turn of sleep. Porygon also goes for a recover here, so bit of a stalling presence here, but nothing that we can't deal with later on. Torkoal is going to get another Heat Wave off. It's going to put some pressure back onto that Porygon too. I'm actually going to Meteor Mash now into the Porygon 2 rather than the Milotic, but the Porygon 2 has Protect, so we do see another Coil come out from the Milotic. So once again getting its accuracy up, probably giving that Hypnosis now a fully accurate move to utilise. A burn onto this Milotic would be very nice, as the sunlight actually fades. I'm going to switch Mimikyu in for the Torkoal, because I do feel like the Milotic is now ready to target that slot down with possibly a Scald. I am just going to Meteor Mash into the Porygon 2. Hoping to wake up this turn if I can. As we just see the Milotic actually go for a recover, so a very stall orientated Milotic here, which is very unusual. Metagross wakes up, gets its Meteor Mash off. Really good, and we get another attack rise, which is absolutely brilliant. So we know that the Tapu Lele's got to come back in. Does get up the Psychic Surge once again. And I am going to go straight for this Trick Room and another Meteor Mash into the Tapu Lele. Basically, I'm trying to force my opponent to go for the Mimikyu as best as possible. As we see, it just hangs on. So if this Milotic is going for Hypnosis, okay. Okay. That's fine. I'm not too worried about that. We do get the Trick Room up, which is going to be very useful here. Next, I am going to Shadow Claw the Milotic. If we get a critical hit, that will be very useful. And I am going to Meteor Mash the Tapu Lele, hoping that we're going to wake up here. Tapu Lele protects. So if we don't wake up, that will be a bonus. Shadow Claw goes off, but obviously the coils means that the Mimikyu is surviving pretty well. As it goes for a Hydro Pump into the Metagross, does just under half. So we are just going to Shadow Claw again into that Milotic, and we are going to Meteor Mash into the Tapu Lele. Hopefully we don't stay asleep. We do wake up. Meteor Mash avoids the Lele. Oh, what a time to miss. What a time to miss. Okay. We still have an out here. If we had hit with the Meteor Mash, I would feel very confident that we could close out the game here. As it stands, we've got 2 turns of Trick Room left. I don't know whether an Eruption will be enough. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Solar Beam into the Milotic, and I am going to Meteor Mash the Milotic as well. Tapu Lele protects, which is what I was hoping was going to happen. Basically, my opponent's trying to get the Milotic to knock out the Metagross with this turn, so hopefully we can do enough damage here to turn the screw onto this Milotic. We do hit the Meteor Mash. All important hit there. And I think we may just have sealed up the game here. So we can Solar Beam into the Tapu Lele. We do have to continue going for the Meteor Mash as well. Doesn't get a double protect, so the Solar Beam is going to go into this Lele. Significant damage, and I think we've got the game though on lock. Psyshock into the Torkoal, shouldn't do enough damage. Not nearly enough. Come on Metagross, hit this Meteor Mash please. Thank you. Close game. But as we see, that Milotic did prove a bit difficult to handle. The coil was something that I don't normally see on a Milotic set very often. But paired up with Hypnosis, it does make a lot of sense. And Hydro Pump, obviously, inaccurate as it is, after a coil, it does get the opportunity to hit with 100% accuracy. So a good strategy built around the Milotic, and of course the Psychic Seed boosting its special defense, and with the coils boosting its regular defense, it gives it opportunity to really dish out some damage by putting some more investment into its offensive presence. But as you can see, it was a bit of a disruptive issue for my team. combined with the fact that Metagross missed a couple of Meteor Mashes, which could have meant that we closed out the game a bit earlier. I can't really complain. We did win the battle, and I think we played that relatively well. Probably didn't deal with the Milotic as well as we could have done, but we did make a couple of very good plays there with predicting the Protect on the Lele very near the end of that battle and taking out the Milotic in one hit with a combined hit of Solar Beam and Meteor Mash. Those attack raises on Metagross actually did prove to be quite useful in the end, so I can't really complain too much about how that game went in terms of the luck factor. So we will just try and find another battle. Good to get a win under our belt, so hopefully we can make it 2 wins today. First time that we can do this with this team. And yeah, we managed to get up 2 Trick Rooms, which is very unusual with this team, unless the Mimikyu somehow manages to survive so well. So it's really good to see that in action. And obviously, if you ignore Mimikyu at your peril, if it does manage to set up that second Trick Room, it gives this team a bit of a second wind, something that it doesn't always get the opportunity to do. So sorry about that, guys. I had to make a small cut because obviously my OBS is still playing up a little bit. So I'm hoping that with recording this session, I'm going to be able to get a second game in for you. I have played a game in between the game that I just won that you'll have seen before and this one. Unfortunately, I lost it against a Steel Silvally Garchomp team that was very offensively based. But hopefully we can still get a good battle on for the second part of today's episode, and we get a Taiwanese opponent from Taipei City with a rating of 1586 with a team of Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, Kartana, Gastrodon, Alolan Muck, and the Arcanine. So once again, Tapu Koko and Arcanine, 2 of the biggest threats so far in VGC17, something that we're all going to have to get used to as going on. But we do have a very good Trick Room orientated mode with the Gastrodon and the Alolan Muck, and the Kartana is always something that we've got to really be wary of, as it does have very heavy offensive presence. So how do we want to lead on this one? Hariyama looks like a safe-ish bet, but I don't really want to be risking, say, a Dazzling Gleam from the Tapu Koko if we can help it. I still think Snorlax and Torkoal are going to be quite good here. I don't fancy Metagross all that much with retrospect, so I think my play here is to go Mimikyu, Hariyama, Torkoal and Snorlax, and we'll lead off with those. So depending on what my opponent leads, if she goes for Tapu Koko and say a Porygon 2, it does bring up a bit of mind games, because the Porygon 2 can obviously very well reverse our Trick Room that we try to set up to benefit the rest of our team. Obviously Tapu Koko is a big threat because it does have Dazzling Gleam, but we do see just the Alolan Muck and the Arcanine. So a potentially difficult turn 1 here is on the cards. Arcanine could very well have Roar, and that is something that we do have to be very acutely aware of. The Muck also will have Knockoff, which is something that we have to bear in mind as well. I do think though our play is to just Trick Room and to fake out into the Arcanine slot. I don't want that Arcanine roaring if I can help it. We do see it withdraw in favour of the Porygon 2. Understandably so, gets an attack rise from its download. So the fake out does go off into the Porygon 2. Muck chooses to curse though. So raising its defense and defense and attack by 1, but lowering its speed. So more than likely we'll now outspeed our Hariyama. But we do have the Hariyama now burned. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be a bit cheeky here. I'm going to psych up this muck. And I'm going to knock off the Porygon 2 here. Rather than close combating into the Porygon 2, as we actually see it switch, could be back into Arcanine, which is really, really nice for us. So we are going to get a knockoff onto this Arcanine. Probably knocking off whatever berry it may have. As we see the muck actually curse again, so we're getting a +2/+2 Mimikyu here from the Psych Up, which is going to be incredibly useful. Hariyama does get its knockoff into the Arcanine, does knock off the Aguave Berry, and we see the Mimikyu Psych Up. Really, really nice for us there. And now puts a lot of pressure onto this Arcanine to actually do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Shadow Claw the Arcanine. I do think there is a potential for the Porygon 2 to switch back in, but I'm not too worried about it at the moment. And I'm going to knock off the Muck, trying to knock off what I would assume is a Figgy Berry, as we do see a Gunk Shot come out from the Muck into the Hariyama. A lot of damage, but we do survive. Shadow Claw does go off onto the Arcanine, does pick up the knockout with the help of a critical hit, which I don't think mattered too much, and then Hariyama will get this knockoff, not doing a lot of damage, but critically the Mega Berry goes. Hariyama does stick around one more turn with one more tick of burn damage. We could potentially see the Muck have something like Shadow Sneak, or might just even go for a knockoff into the Hariyama. But we're not in a terrible situation, although Trick Room will end in a couple of turns. So I am going to go onto a rather offensive mode, and I'm going to play rough into the Muck and close combat into the Porygon 2. As we do just see the Muck actually chooses to knock off the Hariyama, knocking it out. We do get this play rough into the Muck, does just under 50%, and we see a Toxic from the Porygon 2. It's not a bad turn for us there. We can now bring in Torkoal really safely into this slot. And I think the combination of an Eruption plus a Play Rough into the Porygon 2 should be able to knock it out, especially with the Mimikyu at +2 as it is already. The Eruption will take down the Alolan Muck, and we are definitely still going to be underspeeding the Muck, come what may. It all depends what... so it chooses to protect the Muck, which is a solid play. Torkoal does get its Eruption off. Will it knock out the Porygon 2? Probably not. But that's well within range for Mimikyu's Play Rough. As we do see that the Trick Room dimensions twist to normal. And we see Tapu Koko as my opponent's last. Right, well, okay. Trick Room in here isn't really too much of an issue. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to play rough into the Tapu Koko. Actually, is Shadow Claw going to be still effective? I am going to play rough into the Tapu Koko, and I am going to just continue erupting. It's not worth me Trick Rooming, because where the muck is now cursed, it's actually better for me to allow the dimensions to stay as they are. So Mimikyu's play rough does hit the Tapu Koko. We are going to get the knockout there. So depending on what this muck does, if it goes and targets the Torkoal, is going to knock off our choice specs. It will be the saddest eruption ever, but that's not too big of a deal. Mimikyu's poison still takes effect, but I think we've locked out the game now. Basically, all we got to do is get some damage onto this muck a little bit more. Could have flamethrowed there actually, couldn't I? But my opponent actually forfeits as well, so a good game to my opponent there. She did play that relatively solidly, but unfortunately the Trick Room mode, we were able to capitalise on it a lot, and with the muck actually cursing in front of us, we were able to give Mimikyu a good psych up boost straight away, benefiting our own Trick Room and being able to secure a lot of damage onto the remainder of my opponent's Pokemon. So very good battle to end this video off. I do apologise again about the cut, but until next time guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching. Do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the content. Subscribe if you want to see more content out from the Battle Spot Factory, or indeed any other content that you would like to see. Do let me know, and do so in the comments section below. But until next time guys on the Battle Spot Factory, I will see you later. Bye bye for now.